people get employed and maintain employment. I'm also on the Workforce Investment Board, joined a few years ago. The purpose of the WIB is to connect local Rutland folks with businesses so that they can get employed in the local area. And there's a lot of really great opportunities for work here, and a lot of variety of opportunities here. So that's why we're here today. So we're trying to connect folks to employers. So the first thing I'm going to do is show a few videos to you all, which we'll talk a little bit about what the WIB does and what working in the Rutland area looks like. And then we have some amazing presenters who are going to talk about work in their field.
I'm not a first generation, I'm an immigrant, and to me, Vermont has become home. We build custom windows and doors. We are very good at building contemporary doors and windows. Rutland, to me, was always very business friendly. We need an employable young population in Rutland and in the state. I know that other companies in the area are looking for quality and educated employees. We're hiring.
Rutland Regional Medical Center has been serving this community for over 120 years now. I came here from the Boston area 28 years ago, and I told my family at the time, at 3 to 5, I stayed because this was a great place to live. We have a vision for being the best community health system in New England. The key to that has been our staff. Every projection you can find shows that healthcare jobs are going to continue to grow. At any given moment, we need 100 to 120 more people. But even outside of healthcare, there are opportunities. Sometimes you gotta be creative and make them. There's a lot of support for that kind of entrepreneurial spirit here beyond the jobs that Rutland Regional can provide.
I love Rutland County because it gives me the option to live and work in a place where I can do all the things that I love. These activities that I used to do maybe once a year, these are all things that are 5 minutes from each other.
It's a new day in Rutland County. Today, companies like GE and Rutland Regional Medical Center have hundreds of real jobs to fill.
I grew up in Michigan, lived in New Jersey, lived in Montana. I've never fallen into a community so quickly. I can't even count how many times we rode the chairlift with folks from Boston or Hartford, Connecticut, and say, we would love to live here, but there's no jobs. There are jobs here.
To learn more, visit realrutland.com.
All right, just take a minute to introduce yourselves and then take it away.
My name is Brad Cyril. I run my own landscaping and excavation business. I've been at it. I've been working for myself for call it 2.5 years now, and I love being my own boss.
I'm Kim Levins. I work for a construction company in Brandon, and I'm a project manager, and I'll be telling you how I landed there in a couple minutes.
My name is Megan Regali. I'm going to be talking about welding and metalworking processes. I make sculpture, I do that, but I also am a teacher at Middlebury Union High School and got my start at Stafford, welding in their adult ed program.
Thanks, Megan. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to try to do this a little better than I just did the last one. So I'm going to give you a quick rundown of who I am, where I came from, and what I do day to day, okay? I'm a project manager, like I said. I was born and raised in Rutland, Vermont. I went to Christ the King, I went to MSJ. I see a Mountie over there. One MSJ kid? Okay. I went to UVM, I went to Northeastern, I almost went to Syracuse in search of what I was trying to figure out I was going to be. I thought I was going to be a physical therapist. Turns out, my first year at UVM, I figured out I wanted to be an architect. So, fast forward to Temple University. I got a 5-year degree in architecture there. It took me 8 years, but I did it. I bounced around a little bit, just trying to figure things out. So, I was one of those people that was gonna not come back to Rutland. Gonna go to the big city and not go back to where I grew up. And that, I had a job in Philly with my thesis advisor. It ended up falling through. With my head down, I came back to Rutland and worked for a painting company. I pounded nails and I was still just trying to figure it out. Teamed up with a couple local builders and we built houses. Still, I was thinking I'm eventually gonna leave here because there's just not a lot here. Well, that was in '95 when I came back from college, and I'm still here, loving it. I got a family. I even did a little design work in there while I was building houses, so still keeping my hand drawing at my table. Quickly in my spare time, I'm a basketball official. Some of you might recognize me from doing that. I'm your favorite one, right? Yeah, it's all right. Honesty's good. I golf. I golf whenever I can. I just love being outside. Go to mountaintop and ski. Pine Hill Park is half a mile from my house, so I go there a lot. And I'm a little bit of a freak for architectural details. Obviously, that's what I went to school for. My bookshelves are full of this stuff at home. So that kind of rounds out my personal life where I came from. Does anyone know what a project manager does for a construction company? Besides manage projects? Well, basically, I run the job from the office, and I have what we call a superintendent who runs the job from the site, okay? Whether it's a new house, a school, a hospital wing, a water treatment facility. Our company does a lot of things. So I'm usually in the office. What I like to say is I put fires out all day. Not to minimize firefighters, but my phone usually doesn't ring unless something goes wrong on the job site. Kimmer, the mason sub didn't show up today. What are we gonna do? So that's kind of how my day goes. If my phone doesn't ring, things are usually going pretty smoothly on the job site. I also am able to get out on the job, but most of my time is in the office. Here's a few pictures of our office up in Brandon. Great place to go to work every day. Beautiful new building. Our old office burned down in 2010, and we built a new office. So here's my messy little office, our workroom, our kitchen, and our gym we have downstairs. So half of my time's in the office, half of my time I get out and go visit my jobs that I'm managing, to talk to subcontractors, talk to my superintendent, take pictures of the job, make sure we are on schedule. So this is a job we did on Lake Dunmore. I'm going to just rip through these pictures, okay? Started from tearing down a camp, right through finishing it up. We built them a new 4-season home. Nice young couple from South Burlington. So we framed it, we enclosed it in, we dried it in, so we can do the electrical and the plumbing, get all the utilities in there. And we start making it warm. We insulated this one with closed cell spray foam insulation. And then the fun part begins, all the finishes, the drywall and the paint and the trim and the outside shingles and shakes and paint colors. So I'll just go through these pretty quickly so you can see where this project ended up. Window trim's going up, the kitchen's going in, more of the kitchen stuff, exterior siding's going on. There's a view from the street. There's the mason guy that didn't show up. He was a day late, did that nice fireplace for us. And then the views from the lake. So, this was, 2 minutes of a project that took 6 months. It's just for fun, go jump in the lake. So, how do we go from having nothing to a finished product? Well, it all starts with what we call pre-construction. That's where the nuts and bolts of my job starts. We meet with owners, or owners come to us and say, geez, we need a builder. We got this idea. I got an architect who gave us this great idea, and we gotta make it come to life. So they come to us, and we start with pre-construction, with a kickoff meeting. What are we doing? What are the goals for your project, for your new home, or for your new school, or for your new gas station or convenience store? And we go through, what are the goals? What it's gonna cost? How long is the project gonna take? What are some risks involved? What can I expect as an owner to be prepared for? And then we go to construction documents, where an architect, engineer, now again, I have an architecture degree, but I don't do that for a living, and I'm okay with that. Some people, I think when I didn't do that for a living, some people were more upset than I was. I'm okay with that. I do use my degree, but I'm just not at my drafting table every day. I manage the job. So we get to construction documents, and then permitting, estimating, and we get a contract with the owner. That's when we know it's happening, okay? And then we put a schedule to it. So as you can see, and then we hire subcontractors, and then we get a shovel in the ground. So as you can see, project management for any company, it doesn't have to be construction, it can be for an insurance company. There's a lot of things that we do. I'm not really specialized in estimating. I'm not specialized in the permitting. I'm responsible to do it all. So that leads into me telling you guys it's okay to be versatile. You don't have to be specialized into one trade or one subject at school. When my boss called me, he said, you want to come up and work for us and do a little project management? I was on the roof pounding nails with my buddy. And I said, I don't really know what that is. And he said, that's okay. We'll teach you. We just want good people. So he knew I had a degree. He knew I was pounding nails for 10 years. And he knew I could talk to people. I could go to a meeting and not embarrass him. I could look someone in the eye and talk to somebody. And that's what employers are looking for, I think. Oh, we're already at our quiz. Any questions, first of all, about what we do? There's a lot to my job that I just don't have enough time to talk to you about. So it's quiz time. Make sure you were listening. But the quiz has nothing to do with what I just said, okay? So it's an easy one. And there's a prize for every right answer. Okay? Ready? Are you ready? What is the outside of the Statue of Liberty made of? Megan, you can't answer. Back row.
Copper.
Yes, sir. We have a winner. What's your name?
Nicholas.
Nicholas, from Fairhaven?
Yep.
Great. Nicholas, you can't answer this. Why is the Statue of Liberty green? Right here.
Because copper changes after a while.
Because of what?
Corrosion.
What's the name of that word? What's the word?
Oxidization.
Oxidation. Excellent. What's your name?
Dominic.
Dominic. Nice. What is a nail with a double head called? Anyone work in concrete? Or seen some concrete work done? Take a guess. You get a cool little prize. Just take a guess. Slater's shirt in the back row. You.
I have no idea.
Throw a word out there.
Nail.
With two heads, what might it be called?
Two-headed nail.
Good enough for me. A duplex nail. Okay? I should have brought one. Megan, do you have one on you?
I wish.
He gets a prize.
Me?
Who gets prize?
The Slater guy with the thing around his neck.
Coming
The
in.
lanyard on his neck. What's your name, sir?
Kalo.
Kalo. What is the actual size of a 2x4? Actual size, right here.
Isn't it like 1.5 by 3 3/4?
Close.
3.5.
Yes, 2 prizes. You can give out 2, Brad. Raise your hand if you helped on that, and you don't already have one. Nice job. How is insulation rated or measured? Anybody?
Density?
Good guess. It's called R value. I won't get into the science of it, but you get a prize, whoever said that. See how important it is, you guys, to participate? To talk to people? Okay? What is the world's this is the last one. What is the world's largest office building? Who said that? Bang. Nice. Okay, that's all the quiz I have. That's all the prizes I'm giving out. Any questions? Why'd you guys come to this presentation? Because it was like next on the list, or who's interested in carpentry or project management? Carpentry, project management? No. Pounded nails. It's great. It's great. Great career. And there's lots of construction companies looking for good people. Okay? You don't have to be good at your job. You don't have to be a great carpenter or a great plumber to find a job around here. They just want people that are going to show up to work, want to learn, and be a team player. Okay? No questions? Okay, thank you guys. Brad's up.
All right, so I started out, I was actually homeschooled. While I was homeschooled, right before I started, I went to Stafford Technical Center for Forestry and Natural Resources. While I was there, I got my first job, my first year at Stafford, which wasn't related to being at Stafford at all, as a stock boy at a dented can store. So that's where I started. Going to Stafford, I started learning a little bit more about my trade, felling trees. We did some construction, forestry management, stuff like that. Got to plant trees. So from there, my second year, Stafford's got this thing called a job co-op. And what that is basically, if you stay in your program for 2 years, you get to go off every other day. You'll go to work instead of a classroom. You won't even go to school. You go straight to the job site depending on the co-op you got. And mine was a paid co-op, so I was getting paid to not be at school, so I was happy with that. I'm sure a lot of you guys would be pretty happy with that, right? That co-op was for, so it was actually every other week it would rotate, even days and odd days. Odd days, so like the 13th and the 15th, I'd be in school, and then the other 3 days that week, I would be at work. And then the next week it would switch. I'd be 3 days at school, 2 days at work. And that was my first job in landscaping, excavation, learned to do patios, more tree cutting. After that, I worked for them for 2 or 3 seasons. From there, I went and I did custom harvesting, which on a really large scale, chopping corn, chopping hay, not doing bales but haylage, running just massive equipment, driving truck. That's where I learned to drive standard transmission on a big scale. I knew how to drive standard transmission cars, and later on I actually went back to Stafford for an adult ed program and got my commercial driver's license. From that I went and I worked at a tree company. That's where I learned how to climb and use all this fancy stuff. After the tree company, I went and I did excavation and more construction. And from there, I left there and I started my own business. I decided I wanted to work for myself, which was probably one of the best decisions I've ever made. It's taken off. I'm on my, like I said, basically 3rd year working for myself. So, yeah, I guess the description of my job, I guess I'm my own project manager.
You are.
I'm my own project manager, and I'm the guy wielding the shovel on the job site as well, so it's not all great, but so yeah, I do small scale site work. Somebody wants like a concrete pad poured for a shed. I do a lot of patios and walkways, what you see like the fancy walkways with the patio pavers, big stone walls, stuff like that. Tree removals, I climb them, I can come down from the ground. Boy, what else do? I mow lawns, I snow plow in the winter, and I do tree work in the winter. Wintertime is brutal around here doing that, but it's work, so. This time of year, I manage to keep myself very busy. I gotta say, I'm booked out 3 weeks to a month at the moment. I couldn't see that happening at all when I started out, starting out scraping for work, talking to people. You really gotta, when you work for yourself, you really have to network. I mean, you have to get to know a lot of people. And when you get to know a lot of people, that's all, I would say probably 80% of my work is word of mouth. Not even like advertisement, I don't really look from advertising on Facebook, shirts, yard signs, stuff like that. I would say at least 80% of my work comes from just word of mouth, people talking, oh, would you have to do that, oh, I had him do that. And it's like, oh, it looks really nice, give me his card, or give me his number. Let's see. Yeah, I guess we'll talk about this stuff some. This is my climbing saddle. This is what I wear, climbing trees. Spikes. This is how these allow me to walk up the trees, basically, in a way. You've probably seen somebody use something like this. Linemen, tree climbers. I'm sure other professions. And here's my climb line, which I've got a question for you guys about this. How high do you think I've ever been in a tree?
Couple 100 feet.
Nah, not quite.
150?
What's that?
150 feet?
You're getting closer.
160.
No, 100 feet. 100 feet's the highest I've ever been, which that might not sound like a lot, but
Yeah.
when you're clipped into a tree, it's up there. You're in a crane or you're on a crane or something like that, it might not seem like much. And the only reason I can give you that exact number is because that rope right there is 100 feet long, and I've had that off the ground before. So, and that was a pine tree up in, where was that? Bethel. You get that high up, and it starts to go kind of like that. A slight breeze picks up. You move a lot more at 100 feet than you would at 10 feet. So it's definitely I have a dangerous job.
Any volunteers to try that out?
Yeah, who wants to try
We got
it?
some
Come on, let's
trees
go.
out
There's a
here.
tree out there. Put it on. Any of you have any interest in working for yourself at some point in time? Anybody think you're gonna do that? You do? You do?
Yeah.
All right. Oh, wow, we've got a few in here. That's surprising.
That's great.
We'll start with you. What do you want to do?
Well, I'm more into construction and landscaping, so probably combine those two.
Right, good. That's what I started out in doing landscaping, and I kind of, as I just bought I bought an excavator, so that kind of just, I'm kind of getting dragged into doing more construction than I planned on doing, but which is fine. I know how to do it, so I might as well do it. But you'd be surprised. You start with one thing and you just expand out from there.
Pretty much a subcontractor, because in the state of Vermont, you don't really need your contractor's license to build.
Right.
So.
Right.
Why not?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I don't do building. As far as standing stuff up and swinging a hammer and a nail, I'm not the man you want to have do that. You're gonna have a pretty crooked building. But as far as getting the site ready for concrete and all that, burying pipes, septic tanks, I do all that kind of stuff. So, and you,
Electrician.
electrician,
Mm-hmm.
no? You gonna plan on going to Stafford for electrical and plumbing, or?
Maybe, but I do want to be an apprentice to get my master's license
Hmm.
and then work for a company for a couple years to get more experience and then see if I can do myself good.
Good, paid training. You,
Well, I mean, like, my dad has his own company, which is all, it's like tree work, landscaping, snow, everything.
oh, good.
Yeah, McCullough Brothers.
Yeah. I actually Oh, are you CJ's little brother?
Yeah.
I went to school with CJ.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alright, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about then, yep. Anyone else?
Yeah, I wanna take over my grandfather's dairy farm.
Dairy farm? Yep, very nice.
Great.
More farms, more food, right?
Yeah.
Alright. Let's see what I'm at for time here. Alright, well, I'm pretty much, unless anybody's got any questions or has anything else they wanna talk about, I'm pretty much wrapped up.
Did you do the forestry program in it too?
I did, yeah. Yep. Anything else? Alright, go ahead and take the wheel.
Alright, thanks. Nice job.
Nice.
Yeah. So my name's Megan Regali, and I'm here to talk to you about welding and metalworking. It's a big field, so we're gonna barely scratch the surface together today. Initially, let me just pop this up here. Initially, I went to school. I grew up in an industrial farm town in Connecticut, in between New Haven and Hartford. And I went to art school out in San Francisco, California. And I walked into the metal shop there, looked around at the equipment, and was like, what's going on with this place? And walked out. And it wasn't until I moved to Vermont that I discovered welding and metalworking and fell madly in love with it. And when you meet a metalworker, most of the time, they're doing it because they're crazy about metalworking for some reason or another. So it's a bug that bites you. And so I started taking welding courses at Stafford Tech in their adult ed program. I got VSAC grants to do it. Took stick welding courses, Tig welding, and then started learning on my own how to do oxyacetylene, torch work, and brazing, and also MIG welding. And then I started exploring all kinds of other types of metalworking from there. I just became totally obsessed and curious. So essentially what I love about metalworking is I feel like I'm channeling a force of nature. It's like having a lightning bolt that you're being able to harness. And also you work with fire quite a bit, and I love fire. And one of the things that I enjoy about welding is there's a danger factor to it. So it really helps me focus and be really present in the moment. And there's always something that I'm learning about, no matter how much I explore and discover. So I just want to ask a few questions. Does anybody know who this character is up here? Probably seen it.
I don't know the name, but I've seen it before.
You've seen it, okay. What is there any anything you associate it with?
Well, I'm pretty sure it involves, because women weren't allowed to work for a long time, and I know that has to do something with the movement that did allow them to start working the same jobs as men.
Yes, right on. So World War II, my grandfather and his brother fought in World War II, and my grandmother, his wife, was a Rosie the Riveter. In that point in time, the men went off to war to fight in the war, and they needed people to fill the job. So women were welcomed into the workforce, and they started doing work that they never thought that they were able to do before. The way they did that is they had this woman who they nicknamed Rosie. There were a few of them that they nicknamed that. And they walked a bunch of women who were new to the job up to her. She had a power hammer that she was working with, which is a very large machine that has a lot of power and can obliterate essentially anything that you're working with, but it's a great tool. And they would watch her on the power hammer, and all of a sudden the switch went off. Oh my God, I can do that. So my grandmother was doing things like that, and so today we have a really diversified field, and it's welcome for men and women to be able to do this kind of work together. And so this is the beginning. They are doing riveting work right here, the woman on the right, and I just want to pass around. These are a couple of rivets so you have an idea of what a rivet is. I've got a copper one and then a little bit oxidized, but it's brass, so you can pass that around, take a look at it. That's a mechanical attachment process, so no heat necessary, it's mechanical. But welding processes require heat sources, electricity, torch, things like that. Right here, there's different kinds of equipment that you're going to use for different kinds of processes. This woman here is doing stick welding. Stick welding is something you're going to see on job sites for the bones of buildings, like large buildings, skyscrapers, things like that. Also, you'll see a welder come to a home for a building site, bridges, things like that. She's got her electrode here, her rod, her hood. You have certain kinds of equipment for safety. This is a shirt that you would wear so it catches the sparks and doesn't set you on fire. And then we also have different kinds of gloves. So for if you're doing stick welding or MIG welding, which is like, a gun with a wire coming out of it that melts into a beautiful lava puddle of fire. It's quite mesmerizing. I'll pass around some of these gloves because they have different characteristics and qualities. So we'll start with that. So take a look, like actually maybe you might not all be able to fit your hands in there because I have to special order my equipment so it's really small to fit me. I also have different kinds of eye protection, face protection. There used to be an old cowboy mentality where like you're not going to wear your protection, but I've been hired by a blacksmith who was doing amazing work, getting paid a lot of money because he was losing his vision because he didn't actually wear safety equipment. So I got paid a lot of money to do his TIG welding because he couldn't see that well anymore. So it's one of those things, it really matters, and it's also part of the fun. So this is somebody on the job site, again, different situations. Around the world, welding is something that is valued and needed. So these folks are welding on the site, job sites. Does anybody recognize that character? Who's that? What? It's a minion. Which one?
Bob.
Who is it?
Bob.
It's Bob. Yeah. So it turns out, who's got the white gloves? Hold them up. These white gloves, all right, are what you would wear if you were doing this welding process. Now, you can see the person's hand. That's really tiny. So, super precise, detailed welding process called TIG welding. Now, if you have big fat gloves on, you're not going to have good hand-eye coordination, dexterity, because you've got a bunch of pad in there. So those gloves are special. They're super soft leather, and they allow you to have really fine, detailed hand-eye coordination, dexterity. And so you'd wear those gloves if you were doing this welding process. Welding is really diverse. You can do it in a lot of different contexts. Today, this is pipe welding. There's sheet metal workers, there's all kinds of, there's casting, where you melt the metal and then you pour it into a form. That is also connected to what I have here. This is a small scale, it's called lost wax casting, and I have a mold here, so I'll pass this around. And then this is a ring that I made that's too heavy, I have to modify it, but it's called the dark crystal, because I'm also a metal artist, so I'll pass that around. So you're melting the metal and then putting it into a form. I've got a couple other pieces. I got a wishbone right here, which is also a casting process. So we're in the future now. So a lot of pipe welders you're probably familiar with are for gas lines, right? Oil, things like that. But we're also in a huge conversion where we're looking at what are forms of energy that are going to have a symbiotic relationship to the planet and our lives. So pipe welding is something that can also be applied to green energy. So things like wind turbines, that kind of technology is going to need this. Also, if you're gonna be involved in helping to restore the infrastructure of, say, water pipelines in cities, right? We've heard a lot about that. There's a need there. So you'd be doing pipe welding. There's a lot of work in pipe welding, and you can travel. You can travel. Anybody recognize that? So it turns out, whenever I move for a job or go to a new community, I create a network of my metal family. So I stay in touch with my teachers, I collaborate with other metal workers, we help each other solve problems, we teach each other things. It's a huge exchange because it's a big world, and just because you are really good at one thing, there's so much more to explore. So it's great to have a network of people you can rely on and you can collaborate with. All the metalworkers I know are also like creative people, and they're really talented. So they'll do projects that are really interesting like this with their free time. Sometimes they'll also get commissions. You can get commissions, you can also work for different companies. So it's not just construction, but sometimes, you know, you have like special effects industry in the movie world. They need metal workers, like amazingly talented metal workers. So there's sculptures, there's all kinds of things like public art, things like that. This process is the Tig Welding process for those soft white kit gloves. You could weld bike frames together, but you could also use that process if you were welding, say, in a nuclear power plant, and there is zero room for error. You want precision, you don't want anybody's lives at risk in your hands, and this is a super elegant, very precise form of welding. Requires good hand-eye coordination, whether you're a surgeon or a welder. I show this one for fun because welding can go from really tiny scale to massive. This is a flatbed truck, so just to give you an idea, metal is amorphous and it can perform in all different kinds of situations. And the knowledge that it takes to make this sculpture is just as advanced as somebody doing work in the industry for a really long time. So there's a big wealth of knowledge. You can, welding also brings you out to the bridges of the world. It requires precision also, and just like really reliable skill sets. So, because people's lives are in your hands, whether it's a building or a bridge. Personally, I have a fear of heights, but I also enjoy imagining myself like hanging off of a bridge and welding. Sounds kind of exciting, right? So there's different kinds of welding. There's underwater welding, there's aerial welding, things like that. But there is this thing where in the welding industry we have this passport. So you bring a little passport book with you. Initially, if you're taking classes, you can take an exam, and not an exam, but like a test, and you perform, and you pass, and you get a certification, right? But welding's the kind of thing that if you don't use it, you lose it. So you always want to stay up on your skills. So they have passports now, invite you into a new job, you show up on the site, you demonstrate that you are indeed a proficient welder, and you can do this well, and you have an understanding with the skill and the process, and then you get a little stamp in your passport. So it's like a fresh kind of validation that you're consistently performing, and you have that as proof. This is another sculpture. There's tons of metals in the world, and this sculpture actually brought them all together, which is really challenging to do. Because some metals get along well and some of them don't. In the industry for welding, there's a lot of different routes you can do. You can start your own business, but before starting your own business, it's great to just get experience, right? So you can do fabrication jobs as an independent contractor, like I have. But you can also go down the route of going into the union. When you join the union, after you get set up with your passing your training and things like that, it's about a 5-year period of time where you can get journeyman status. And journeyman status means you can go anywhere and you can weld. It's like your golden ticket. So the great thing about these programs is you can.
Little time, 5 minutes.
Great. Okay. The great thing about these programs is that you can work and get paid, make a living, and learn. You're surrounded by people who will help you learn at various stages of the process. So you're not expected to know everything, but they bring you through this process, and then the union is supportive of helping create professionals in the world while you're supporting yourself doing it. There's also a lot of really interesting work out there, sculpture, specialized jobs where maybe artists have jobs that they need done, museums, things like that, the 9/11 memorial, there's all kinds of things that people are coming up with, and they need welders who have these skills, and it takes a lot of skill to create something like that. And finally, I just want to share this little anecdote. My welding teacher, who I'm still in touch with from Stafford, he does trainings of welders all over the country. He does blacksmithing projects on the side and does work for nuclear power plants. But when he was a young man, he was one of the first generations in Peace Corps. Peace Corps, when you join the Peace Corps, you go out into the world and you contribute to the world in terms of your skill set. And he was one of the first generation of welders to go out to the Middle East and do welding as his contribution to those communities. And they did not speak each other's languages, but they definitely spoke the language of welding. So it is a universal language that you can rely on. And he made some friends and had some really great life experience. So, any questions?
Megan, you mentioned journeyman.
Yes.
That was like your golden ticket.
Yes.
Is there another step? Is there like a master welder, like some other trades, or
So
if
journeyman.
you have time?
Yeah. Journeyman status can be something like you probably hear of it in electrical work, right? So journeyman can be specialized areas in welding, the welding world, and then you can get additional certifications like the American Welding Society, for example, can give certifications that are more and more advanced. And they're looking at us having a critical shortage of 200,000 welders right now, because my parents' generation are retiring. So there's a lot of work that is going to be available yesterday. Any questions? All right. Wondering if I can just get some of my props.
They're all right here. I got them.
All right. Feel free to come up and check them out too after if people are curious.
So if you're done, I'd just like to have you join me in a round of applause for the presenters.
Thanks for coming.
And you can move on to your next workshop. Yes, thanks.